Welcome, everyone, back to Rotary. First, I want to thank Jeremy Harris. Jeremy is back in the house. I always feel so much better when he plays before meetings. So, Jeremy, thank you again. And welcome to all of you and to your guests. Greeting line today was International Service that does wonderful work. If you're looking for a great place to volunteer, International Service would be a wonderful committee for you. And thank you to my buddy Dave Davis for pouring wine today. Thank you, Davey. Come on. And please bring guests up and introduce them at the microphone. After we do this, we're going to be ringing the bell today, so be thinking about spending some money in the next few minutes, please. Octavia, how are you?
I brought my friend today, my church member, Chinedu.
Chinedu, welcome.
I'm gonna take my. Yeah, I really enjoyed this club. I know this club since 1975. I benefited from it.
Make sure you speak into the microphone so they can all hear you.
During that time, I came from Nigeria. I don't know anything actually. So I started with, I finished with DVC. I went to UC Berkeley. On my fourth year on 75 at UC Berkeley. And the Rotary Club, they have an organization. They said they're gonna take all the foreign students to Southern California and come back. Somebody was sponsoring, I don't know where the money came from. All I know that we all have jumped in the bus because we don't know anywhere. And then the great country, if you are not born here, if you are born here, you just don't know what you guys are enjoying. I came from Nigeria, and everywhere was so clean. And then they took us to Southern California. Then you see the orchard, the farmland, it's like a carpet, what? And then when we came back, it was really, I enjoyed it. And up to today, I still remember. And then when my friend tell me about Rotary people, I said, oh, they took us to Southern California. And then,
Well, you've got a wonderful friend in Octavia, and our club will take full credit for you being here. How's that? Welcome again.
Yeah.
Next up.
Good afternoon, President Steve. I'd like to introduce my dear friend and mentor, Joe Cizinski. Joe is the best business coach in the South Bay, as well as he is an Army veteran.
Welcome, Joe. You'd be a great member of our club. Aw, that's beautiful.
It's my honor and privilege to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me, Linda. I look forward to contributing any way I can to help the club, the university, and the area. So thank you for inviting me.
We'll find ways for you to contribute, don't worry. Heather Lerner.
Hello, Steve. I want to introduce my friend Chris McCougan. He serves on our board at Boy Scouts. He serves on many corporate boards and is also a private equity advisor. Welcome, Chris.
Welcome, Chris. Good to have you.
Thank you. Thanks for the privilege of attending.
Enjoy your lunch. Rod.
Mr. President, Dr. Abe Walcott is a research chemist at the oldest and greatest university in the state university system. And go Spartans. And I'm not going to have him speak today because he's going to be introduced formally as a new member in the near future.
Wonderful. Thanks, Rod. Welcome, Abe. We'll have some fun.
We have a visitor from India.
Wonderful. Welcome. Would you like to introduce yourself or come up here and exchange the flag? Or come on up here, please.
Morning, everyone. First of all, I thank you for giving me this opportunity. And it is my pleasure to introduce myself before you. I am Rotarian Sridhar Hegde member of Rotary Club Tirsi. Membership ID is 3488123. Club code districts 3170, Karnataka, Maharashtra, Goa, India. Chartered in 17 to 1960, charter number 15691. Classification. I am a pharmaceutical distributor running as proprietor since 1985 and honored as one of the honest taxpayer by Commercial Tax Department in our state, Karnataka. I joined the Sirsi Rotary Club in 1996 and worked as club leader, senior Rotarian, given services in all categories. Our club taken so many community projects like Rotary Eye Hospital, NICU project, blood bank in government hospital, blood donation camps, rainwater harvesting, planting the trees, Swachha Bharat Abhiyana, Green Sirsi projects, improving water lakes and tanks, happy school projects. In this, we have distributed e-learning kits to school. Learning the subjects are therein. So many health checkup camps distribution of pre-medicine every year. Drinking water projects in Sirsi and in our club area. Breast feeding, Kosaki, breast feeding. Also, running yoga classes every day, yoga. In India, yoga classes, every day our club is running yoga class. Educating the students about the digital India and technology, banking, personal leadership, etc. Helping aged people home in our club area. Save girl child. Helping dump and dump schools in Sirsi area. Helping mentally and physically disabled schools. Yeah, yes, I will finish. So many. I am so much open-minded man. Okay. Finally, once again, I am requesting your club to join your hands for our global grants as we are developing country in India. Thank you, one and all. I want to a flag exchange. Tina? Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
Who'd like to ring the bell? Come on up, Tim. Don't all get quiet. That's weird. That's like, this isn't the last man standing thing.
Good afternoon,
Tim.
President Steve. This is for my oldest daughter, Jacqueline, who's starting a new job in New York, and we're very happy for her. So ring the bell once.
Congratulations, Tim. Fernando Zazueta.
Well, my youngest son, Daniel, whom some of you have met, will be the Senior Deputy City Attorney for San Jose for Land Use and Planning starting in July. He and his wife, Maddie, she's in charge of the West Coast Communications for Airbnb. They're going to be joining us at the barbecue next Wednesday, so be sure you say hello to them.
Thank you, Fernando.
2 times.
President Steve, I would like to ring the bell 2 times, one for my daughter, master degree in public health, and for all the veterans that gave their life to us.
Very beautiful. Thanks, Octavia.
Hi,
Hi,
President
Deanna.
Steve. I'd like to ring the bell 2 times, one for my awesome friend Joe for showing up today, and one for Michelle Acosta for being a beautiful person in this world.
Very nice, Dan. Hi, Maggie.
President Steve, I'd like to ring the bell twice. My son Jared Padovani opened up a venue in Chattanooga, Tennessee called the Boneyard. And it's a warehouse with things that were old and dead that were brought to life, including art. Very creative. And he got a really great write-up in the Chattanooga Times about it. So that's my story.
Wonderful.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Maggie.
Thank you.
Well, look who's here.
Hi, President Steve. I'm Emily Robin. I'm ringing the bell for myself because this is my first ever Rotary meeting wearing a badge. And my mom was a longtime Cupertino Rotarian, and I know she would be so, so proud of me.
Oh, Emily, it's beautiful. Thank you.
And since it's her money I'm spending, I would like to also ring the bell for her being here. So that's going to be 2 rings we get. And then a third one, again, it's her money. So thank her. Because we have a farmhand moving in today with us, and we could not be more excited. So my family is going from me and 87 animals to me and my lovely wife and our farmhand. So 3 times from us.
Way to go, Robins. Michelle Acosta, come on up to the mic. Welcome, Michelle. It's great to see you back.
Hello.
You're going to go first. You're going to ring the bell, weren't you?
It'll make more sense if you go first.
Okay, then I'll go first. Michelle is one of the Silicon Valley Business Journal's Women of Influence, and we are all incredibly proud. Michelle is a young superstar. Any of you who've worked with her in any regard know that. She's got wisdom and knowledge beyond her years. She's a super volunteer, and we all love her deeply. So Business Journal, you got that one right. So Michelle, what would you like to say to the audience today?
Yeah, so I'd like to ring the bell 3 times. And this Women of Influence has the timing is really significant to a personal situation. And so I would like to ring the bell 3 times. 1, for the women of influence who were. A 2nd time for the women of influence who will be. And a 3rd time for the loss of my women of influence.
Oh, thanks, Michelle. Nancy Williams. Nancy, I think you're here finally, aren't you? I bumped Nancy from the agenda about 13 times since the gala, so I was finally ready last week, and then she wasn't here. So she's brought up her special friend.
Okay, so sorry I missed last week, but I've been kind of on a bender since the last time I got knocked off the agenda. So me and Dean have just been hanging out at different bars downtown, and I came today because I heard there was going to be booze. Okay. Just kidding. We made a lot of money at the gala. That's really all I wanted to say. I don't know why that would take so long that I couldn't. No, seriously, I mean, the gala, even though we ran out of food, we ran out of booze, it was a great success. I think everyone had a wonderful time. You know, we had a lot of challenges going in, and President Steve, I said, do you think people are ready for a live gala? And he said, I think half of them are. So plan a gala for about half the normal crowd. So we planned for a gala with 150 people. We had a little over 200. Clarence Stone said, do you think you can make 150,000 this year? And I said, oh, wow, that's going to be hard with 150 people, but we'll try. That was our stretch goal. And I'm pleased to report where he did a little over 160,000. And that's that's mostly due to you know, those people who didn't come to the gala but still were bidding actively online. That was great. That made all the difference. And also the 3 sponsors who stepped up this year. And I'm talking about Clarence Stone, and I'm talking about John Paul, and Jansen and Yao, that came up to the $7,500 level. That made a huge difference in getting us over our goal as well. So thanks to all our sponsors. Please note their names. We're keeping that poster up for a while so everyone can get a lot of exposure for the great things they did. And thanks to you, We once again contributed a lot of money to the next big project. Thank you.
You can do better than him. Mauricio Cordova, come on up with Bernie White for a new member introduction.
All right, thank you, everybody. I have the pleasure today to introduce Dr. Bernie White. We met a few years ago when I had the pleasure to be her vice chair of membership at AFP. She took me under her wing and taught me everything I know about membership and fundraising and a bunch of stuff, so I'm very thankful for that. At that time, she was working for Second Harvest of Silicon Valley and also working on the dissertation for her PhD, which is on sociology from the University of Syracuse University, excuse me, New York. Currently, she is the Chief Development Officer at the Office of the Mayor, San Ricardo, and she's working in initiatives like San Jose Aspires, which is a micro-scholarship program for first-generation college attendees. So very exciting stuff. So my pleasure, Bernie White.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's an absolute pleasure to be here and a privilege to be here, and just very thrilled to be becoming a new member of the San Jose Rotary Club. I actually first learned about this club through Mauricio at one of these Association of Fundraising Professional planning meetings we had. We were just sitting at Roy Station, somewhat planning, but also talking more about life in general. And all of a sudden, Mauricio said, well, I gotta go zip off to Rotary. So he got on his Lime scooter and headed out over here. And ever since then, we talked about Rotary. And then, of course, the pandemic hit. And I know for me, the pandemic, I had a baby during the pandemic, and life kind of, I felt a little more disconnected from some of the professional organizations or even some of my work connections, because working from home, only seeing people on Zoom, and then on top of that, taking care of an infant. So when things started to open back up, and I changed jobs, one of the first people I reached out to was Mauricio, and again, told me about Rotary, said it's a great club, you should join, and lo and behold, here I am now. And so I really am grateful to Mauricio for his power of persuasion, which I'm sure many of you are very well aware of. And I look forward to working with many of you to improve our community, but also to learn more about all of our collective hopes, dreams, and working together. So thank you so much.
Steve Perez, are you in the house? Steve, come on up. Steve Perez is the interim president of San Jose State, and he's going to tell us a little bit about his story and what it's been like to arrive in San Jose. If you've had the pleasure of meeting Steve like I have, you'll be, I'm sure you feel like I do, very impressed, really excited to have him here as part of our community. And if you haven't met him, please go out of your way to say hello to Steve and welcome him. So with that, Steve Perez.
Thank you, Steve. This is obviously, that was me in December. I had the pleasure of being offered the opportunity to come and be the interim president down here at San Jose State. And I have loved it. And so Steve asked me to give my impressions, and I'll show some slides here too in a second. But I've learned a long time ago to cut to the chase, particularly because I don't want to go over my 5 minutes. I don't want to get the hook. It's awesome. Right? The school is fantastic. One of the things that I wonder, I already knew it was good. I was at Sacramento State for 20 years. Started as an assistant professor, became the provost eventually, and there was only a couple of places that I was willing to leave for. I had a pretty good job there. And this was one of them. This is the top of the list. And so I'm unbelievably excited to come here for this opportunity, and it is not disappointed. Actually, it's only disappointed in one way. I'll tell you what that is here in a second. But when you come try to lead a university, particularly a big one like San Jose State, what we really need is alignment. What we need is everybody understanding what we're here for. And one of the things that I've been pleasantly, I don't know if surprised is the right word, but certainly impressed by, is everybody on campus knows why we go to work. We go to work for student success, make sure that our students are getting the best educational experience we possibly can. Last week, we graduated 7,500 new Spartans. It was a long, unbelievably exciting and fulfilling week of commencements, day after day after day. But those, if any of you were there, hope you were able to feel the love and appreciation that we're able to give for our students, and that the pride that they felt. It was great. You combine them with the 2,500 students that graduated in fall, and we put out over 10,000 new Spartans this year. And so we're really, really proud of that. I may not do the slides, we'll see. The other things that we do all kinds of things. We've got great faculty that do unbelievably great research. So we're student success, we're about academic excellence, we're about regional engagement, and that is part of what we do. We produce $4.1 billion of economic impact for the state of California, and you can see the numbers for all the way down to San Jose and Santa Clara. We're a big part of this regional economy, and we're unbelievably proud of it. But even more so, we're unbelievably proud of how much we can get our students out into our communities, and our faculty and our staff out into our communities, using their expertise to make things better. And we want our students' lives to be better. We want our region to be better. Everybody gets it at the university. I haven't talked to anybody and said, hey, we're here for our students, and have them go, No, nobody ever says that. And so that's been really good. Here's my one disappointment. I didn't actually think Spartans were going to be as shy as they are. They're a very quiet crowd. We talk about how many Spartans are in the room. That's pretty good, but I only heard one go Spartans, and we need a little more energy out of you all, and I need your help, right? We need to tell our story. As you heard, it's the oldest public university in the West. Over 150 years of accomplishment and great things to be proud of, and we're turning out tremendous students that are just 83% students of color, 42% first generation. It is. Thank you. We're not cheap, but we're cheaper than a lot of other places. So our students get out with as little debt as we can possibly get them out with. And it is really our privilege to be able to do this every day. How much time do I have, Steve? All right, because I got a new joke I've been working on. I want to make sure. I got to try it out. So I got a little bit. We've got great research. We got a wildfire interdisciplinary research center, which is the best in the world. Works with CAL FIRE, trying to predict where wildfires are going to go, how they're going to grow. They've got a Doppler radar they put on a truck. They take it out to the wildfires and try to see what's going on. They had a grad student that won a research award at San Jose State, and it was all about fire tornadoes and trying to predict where fire tornadoes were going to occur and how they were going to proliferate. She did a great talk. We try to interact with our local businesses as much as we possibly can. So you can see a bunch of companies here. I know Adobe, we're working with right now. Our student athletes are going out and getting internships with Adobe, and it's kind of specialized because they're generally pretty busy during the year. So it's a great time during the summer for them to do it. The research our faculty are doing. I was just talking to two of our science professors. One of them was doing research to try to get rid of mosquitoes. Literally eradicate the world of mosquitoes. And I thought, well, I hear about ecosystems, and so I asked him, so this isn't the joke, this part's really true. Is there any downside to getting rid of mosquitoes? And he said, no. Right, so good, so let's get rid of them. Here comes the joke. This part's true too. The other researcher was working on heart muscles. Turns out that infants, newborn infants, when they're born, if their heart muscles get injured, they can repair themselves. And we lose that ability as humans as they get older. And so this is still true. He's working on trying to figure out, well, what makes that transition? Because if we can figure that out, maybe we can cure heart attacks later in life. And so we're in the business of putting country singers out of business. All right, thank you. I very much appreciate the positive reinforcement, and I'll try it again on the next group too. Moral of the story, San Jose State is awesome. The region is fantastic. It's been unbelievably welcoming to me and my wife. I can't be more proud of our students and our faculty. It is a great place. Thank you for having me here. Thank you for giving me the chance to talk about the university. I'll do it anytime I can. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. And I was serious. Please go out of your way to welcome Steve and get to know him. He's a spectacular guy. Mark McKenna, come on up. Kelly Estes is the chair of a committee, in essence, creating a buddy program again. We've had buddy type of programs at various times over the decades, but we're redoing it right now. Mark's working on this along with about 10 other committees I think Mark is on. So he's going to talk to you about this buddy committee. Mark McKenna.
Good afternoon, and just imagine I'm Kelly Estes. I look a lot prettier. Everybody needs a buddy. I'm here to announce the launch of the Rotary Buddy Program. The newly formed Rotary Buddy Committee is seeking Rotarians, that's you, to join us for a very special opportunity to buddy up. The Rotary Buddy Program will provide an opportunity for you to connect with other members and support fellow Rotarians through inspiration, shared knowledge, and building friendships. Don't know what a buddy does? Join us to find out. If you're interested in learning more about the program or in becoming a Rotary Buddy, please contact the Rotary Buddy Committee Chair, Kelly Estes. That's Estes, E-S-T-E-S, so look her up in the directory, or there'll be an announcement in the bulletin with her contact information. So look at that, contact her, let her know you're interested. Contact her by June 30th to get on the ground floor. To be clear, you don't need to be a Rotary Buddy Committee member to be a Rotary Buddy. Anyone and everyone can participate in the program. But if you'd like to help design and implement the program, we look forward to welcoming you to the committee. The Rotary Buddy Program will officially launch with a big event in July. So look for it, sign up, and join us. Thank you.
Ed Correa was saying to me today something like, when I joined Rotary, I wasn't really quite sure what it was going to be. There's Ed. And that here he is 5 or 10 years later as a member, and he realizes that most of his best friends are Rotary members. And I have had exactly the same experience. A lot of my posse sitting over there, but so many of you have become my dear, dear friends. And starting with this Rotary Buddy is something you can do. It's going to be all fun and no work, basically taking a new member or even an existing member and just sharing what you like about Rotary with them, helping them get more engaged. The more engaged you get, the better the club is. I know I'm preaching to the choir here. The barbecue is next week. So remember, next Wednesday, there is no daytime meeting, so don't show up here. But do go to History Park. It's 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. It's $60. You can sign up online or sign up in the lobby after today's meeting. And you must register by Monday. Our dear friend Thang Do, who died recently, is having a memorial this Sunday, June 5th at the Rose Garden at 10 a.m. That's the Rose Garden, 10 a.m. Memorial for Thang Do, just one of the sweetest guys I've ever known. With that, Rich Angeloni, come on up and introduce today's speaker. Rich joined about 6 months ago and he wants to sit at the cool guy table.
Thank you, Steve. And go Spartans, by the way. We are season ticket holders for Spartan football. I don't know where you went, Steve, but my wife and I go to most of the games, so thank you. Wait for it. Tony Scott, currently CEO of Intrusion, a Texas-based cybersecurity company. However, he's held several C-level positions with household brand names such as VMware, General Motors, I think I've heard of them, Microsoft, Disney. But the capstone on Tony's career was serving as President Obama's Chief Information Officer, the Federal Chief Information Officer. He's also a venture capitalist with an emphasis on cybersecurity and privacy technologies. Tony holds a bachelor's degree from the University of San Francisco and a JD from Santa Clara University School of Law. Sounds like a Jesuit thread there, which very much in touch with. Tony was inducted into the CIO Magazine's CIO Hall of Fame and has been a frequent keynote speaker, panelist, and advisor at numerous industry and government events. He serves on the boards of the Malcolm Baldrige Foundation, TGen Systems, Color Tokens Inc., Lassen Peak, Service Power Inc. He's also a husband, a father, a new grandfather, an avid boater, a licensed pilot, which is much better than being an unlicensed pilot, I guess. Is that a thing? He enjoys skiing, motorcycles, and biking. So what's the common denominator here? Things that go fast, is that your drug? Tony likes to go fast. My guess is you didn't drive here today in a Prius, right? So my questions are really easy, Tony. How do you have enough time in the day to do all these things? And did you ever play one-on-one with President Obama? Tony Scott.
All right, the first question I have is, how much time, when do you want me to end? I will end on time. 20 minutes, you got it. Okay. I'm going to talk to you today about nothing technical, although I'm happy to answer questions afterwards if you want to talk about that. What I'm going to talk to you about today is something I'll call accidents and opportunities. But before I start, let me say how much I appreciate Rotary. My late wife was a career city manager, was the city manager in Montecito, the city manager for Emeryville, city manager for a city down in Southern California, and also in Keego Harbor, Michigan. And wherever we went, one of the first groups she would reach out to and engage with was the Rotary Club in the local city. And so I've had the pleasure of spending a lot of time with Rotarians over the years. And it was one of the reasons when Richard said, would you come do this? I said, absolutely, absolutely delighted to. So let's see, I advance things by the right arrow here, maybe. So I'm going to talk to you about my journey to the White House and what happens when you get there. And before I start on that story, I'll tell you about some of the accidents and opportunities that led up to that particular event. The first accident occurred in Champaign-Urbana in the early 70s. My roommate, Paul Smith, was from Cupertino, California, and we shared a room. Paul was an insomniac, and he would lay awake at night telling me how miserable the Midwest was and how great California was. And I had never been here before. And I put up with this for 2 years. I think I know something about what it feels like to be a prisoner of war, because every night Paul would go on and on and on about how great California was. After 2 years of this, I finally said, I've had enough. I'm coming to see you. He was leaving school at that point, having graduated. And I said, I have to verify whether all of this crap you've been telling me about is true or not. So I came in August, and in a week's time, we went to San Francisco, Yosemite, the wine country, Santa Cruz, and so on and so on, and culminated in a San Jose State-Stanford football game. San Jose didn't win, but they came really close. And I said to him at the end of the week, "You're right. Why would anybody stay in the Midwest when you have this kind of opportunity?" So that was the first accident. It caused me to move to Cupertino when it was orchards. Eventually, well, I went to work for the city of Sunnyvale, helping with programs for what was then called juvenile delinquent teenagers. Now we call them at-risk youth. And that led to a series of things. Ultimately, I was on the team that helped open the Great America Theme Park in 1976, and things happened from there. I went to work ultimately to Sun Microsystems, and then on and on and on. So, and I won't bore you with all that, but it's been quite an adventure. But that first accident was rooming with Paul Smith in at the University of Illinois. Eventually, I went to work for all the companies that were listed on the introduction here, and it was a really fun ride all the way along through GM and Walt Disney Company and VMware. And how I got to the White House initially was I was giving a speech in Detroit. I'd left General Motors, I'd been at Disney, and I ended up at VMware. And an old colleague called me and he said, "We're trying to do some things to encourage women and get more diversity into the tech field. Would you come and speak at an event I'm running in Detroit?" And I love Detroit, so I said, "Sure, I'll be happy to." And I went to the event, gave my speech, talked about some of the innovation programs we'd had at Microsoft and VMware. And when I was done and leaving the stage, somebody pulled my sleeve and they said to me that they worked in the White House and they were trying to get more diversity into the federal workforce, particularly in IT. Would I come and brainstorm with them about some of the things that the federal government could do? And I agreed. I said, "Sure, happy to go help out." Went out, had our meeting. Ultimately, we decided we'd host a conference at the White House for 200 CIOs and see if we could get them to commit to a bunch of diversity actions. We had the meeting. It went really well. We got a bunch of commitments. And as I was walking out of the White House grounds, somebody else pulled me aside and said, "Would you consider being federal CIO?" My immediate response was, "Hell no." I love living in Silicon Valley. I was finally able to get back here after a long journey. And it was the last 2 years of the Obama administration. I figured, lame duck president, not much exciting is going to happen. Why would anybody in their right mind want to do this? They worked on me and worked on me and worked on me, and eventually I agreed to do it. And this is the rest of the story. So I'm showing you a picture of an RV. Why am I showing you this picture? Unlike every other move I had made in my career, there is no corporate relocation program for the federal government. You're expected to show up on your first day of work, and how you get there is up to you. And how much it costs is up to you. And so on and so on. So I had purchased this RV with the intention of going traveling with my father, and we did a little of that, but he passed away. And then I was stuck with this RV and I didn't know what to do with it. So it sat in storage for a couple of years. And when they said, "You got to be in DC," I said, "Well, I think I'll take the RV." And the back of this thing is actually a garage. So I loaded up my motorcycle and all kinds of clothes and stuff and started on a drive across the country. This is my friend who drove with me, towing my car, and off we went. I found a campground close to Washington, D.C., and parked the RV there and lived there for the first 2 months of the job. When people heard that I was camping out, they imagined me with a tent and a campfire and, you know, beans and hot dogs over a fire and so on. Believe me, it was nothing like that. This thing is air conditioned, there's big screen TVs, a great stereo system, a shower, you know, I mean, it was not roughing it. Here I'm being sworn in by Sean Donovan on my first day on the job. So what happens is the office is in the Eisenhower Executive Office Building, which is right across the street in the White House complex. You have to go through security and then you're in EEOB, and I have some pictures of that in a minute. But you're sworn in, and like any other job, you go to an orientation. They show you where the lunchroom is and where the bathrooms are, and you sign up for all of your benefits and all of those kinds of things. They took me to my office, which was on the second floor of EEOB, right down the hall from the First Lady's office and the Vice President's office, so pretty cool crew you're kind of hanging around with. I looked out the window of my office and said, hey, that's a pretty good view. This is in the middle of January, by the way, in Washington, D.C. And from that view, I'll point out that you could see all the important visitors. Whenever they came to the White House, they'd drive up that circular driveway in the front with all kinds of pomp and circumstance. And so when any foreign dignitary came or whatever, I had a front row seat to the action. It's pretty cool. Here's a picture of the building itself. This was what was called the War Building when it was originally built, and it was the place that was the predecessor to what's now the Pentagon. And each wing of this building is very historical because it goes back to each of the branches of the military. So there's a Navy wing, there's an Army wing, and so on. And I'll show you some pictures of the inside of this. It's several stories high, full of all kinds of great history, some of which I'll touch on. This, by the way, is one of the neatest rooms in the building. It's called the India Treaty Room, and it's very decorative, and it's a place where we would hold a number of different events whenever we needed a room for a large crowd. There's a balcony that goes around the top of it. And this was actually the room where we had that meeting of the 200 CIOs that I talked about. So I was pretty impressed with the architecture and the history of EEOB before I even got there officially. This is the Secretary of War conference room. This is the room where during World War II and so on, all of the generals would meet and meet with the president or whoever and talk about what they were going to do. And this is these rooms, there's dozens of rooms like this throughout EEOB that have some historical connection to events you would all recognize. And in the evening, after a long day of work, it was fun to just go wander around the building and see what you could discover. Here's another of the rooms. And you can see they're all very well preserved and very well maintained. Here's my office the day I moved in. Now here's the next accident and the next opportunity. So I go to orientation, I figure out where the bathroom is, fill out all my paperwork for benefits, and my staff says, what are you doing after lunch? I said, I don't know, this is my first day on the job. I didn't plan anything. And they said, oh good, well we have a meeting with the president in half an hour. So here I am on the first day on the job, Those that know me and see that look on my face, this is, I can't believe I'm sitting in the Oval Office with the President of the United States. What the heck am I doing here? And of course, on the right is the current President of the United States. We didn't know that was going to happen at the time. And we were showing President Obama a website that we had developed, my team had developed, I didn't do anything. They had done it before I got there. That was showing how many people were visiting government websites at any given point in time. And this was right as Obamacare was really starting to take off, so we were really concerned with Health and Human Services websites and so on. I ended up in the Oval Office a bunch of times over the next 2 years. Some for good reasons, some for not so happy reasons, which I'll mention in a second. But I have to say, in all the experiences I've had, whether at General Motors or at Disney or anywhere else, this was the most personally impactful moment I can describe to you. It's just an awesome, unbelievable experience. I think it took me 3 or 4 days to sort of realize what happened, and only later did I realize it had been captured in a photograph. I mentioned wandering around the building. If you can see up close here, you'll see some signatures scratched in the drawer of this desk. This desk is in the EEOB, and it's one of the offices that was the working office for whoever was the vice president of the United States at the time. And it started along probably early in the 20th century, but every vice president wrote their name in the bottom of this desk. So you can see Dick Cheney, let's see, and well, a bunch of others. This was one of the things that when I had guests come visit me, we could take people on the tour of EOB, and I'd always come and open this drawer and say, hey, do you recognize any of these signatures? It's kind of fun. Also got to do some fun things, like spend a couple of planning sessions up at Camp David. This is the presidential retreat. You can't take cameras there. This is a picture from the official photographer. I wish I had more. It's an absolutely wonderful place and a great retreat. I mentioned one of the privileges was I got to invite guests. My 2 younger sisters came to visit me, and I took them to the Brady press room. I got to see where those daily press conferences come from every day. Kind of a fun thing to do. So those are some of the great memories. Here's one, not so much. Testifying in front of Congress is one of the duties of the job. I'm here because about 6 weeks after I took the job, we discovered that the Office of Personnel Management had been breached, and 21 million identities of Americans who had applied for cleared positions in the US government had had their identities compromised in this breach. Congress always wants to find somebody to blame for these things. And since I was sitting in the chair, they wondered why I had allowed this to happen. And I and several of my colleagues spent grueling days in front of various committees at Congress. And you can see that none of us are happy to be there. And even worse, we knew that anything that was done there wasn't going to help solve the problem that we were facing. I'll tell you a side story here. One of the, and this is both an accident and an opportunity. One of the things that I learned is Congress loves to pass laws. They don't have any idea how to negate a law or get rid of it. During the Reagan administration, there was a law passed called the Paperwork Reduction Act. And the idea was a good one. The idea was to lessen the burden on citizens and organizations. And it was a way to make federal agencies in particular be responsible for how much paperwork they actually required citizens and organizations to do. So when the law was passed, what became the requirement was that anytime an agency wanted to change paperwork or add something, they had to have it reviewed by OMB, Office of Management and Budget. Which is why you will still, to this day, see on every paper form that the government has an OMB number. You ever wondered what that was there for? That was what it's there for. Unfortunately, we've moved on from paper, and we've digitized large parts of government. The Paperwork Reduction Act still applies to websites. So the reason you don't see them change very much is every little change that any government agency wants to do to a website that's federal funded has to go through that ugly process. It's a law that should be repealed. I got to do some other fun things like visit Cheyenne Mountain. Believe me, it's nothing like what you see in the movies, but it's really cool inside. As the president is nearing the end of his term, you get to go to the Oval Office and have your picture taken. And I had been there a number of times. After the OPM breach, we launched a series of cybersecurity initiatives, and I developed a little report card for each of the agencies. And every week I would go into the Oval Office and show the president how we were making progress on those initiatives. So at the end of the term, we've done some things to dramatically improve the cybersecurity of the U.S. federal government. And then every administration comes to an end. This is Andrews Air Force Base on that last day of the administration. President comes, the inauguration has taken place. He comes to Andrews Air Force Base and gets on the plane and leaves for his last official duty. So in all of this, I've learned a few things. The first one is, in whatever job you're in, there's all kinds of problems. Find some important ones. Step 2, find a willing business partner. This was true at Microsoft, at VMware, at General Motors, wherever. Step 3, eliminate artificial data boundaries. Figure out what data you need to go solve the problem. Build an agile business process, plan, collaborate, and deliver. Build resources internally. Build a model for scaling. And here's my final thoughts. Leadership is super important. You have to understand the strategic opportunities presented by technology, the risks, the need for tech talent and executive support. Speed and agility is the new growth strategy for anything that you're ever going to do. And I'm really worried about the war for talent. I think that is the challenge of our generation at this particular point. How do we find the right talent? I'm grateful to organizations like Rotary who help develop leaders, community engagement, and collaboration, because I think those are the secrets to success. Thanks.
Questions, a reminder, if you have a red badge, you can come right to the front of the line. Sean Connell, go first.
Thank you for that wonderful presentation. One question I have, how many times did you meet with Pete Souza to get those wonderful photographs that you showed in your
I never actually met Pete until after the administration was over, and he's got a couple of really good books out, by the way, that are just fantastic. But for that one that you saw, that first meeting, he was actually up on a ladder shooting down at us, and I didn't know any idea who Pete Souza was at the time, but he's great.
Other questions? Someone must have a question. Well, while we're waiting for a question, I have a question, Tony.
Yeah.
A common narrative in the private sector, which you were part of for many decades, like me, I think, is that people in government are substandard, they're lazy, government does a crappy job at everything, private business does a great job at everything, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Can you talk about your experience of the people and whether you were disabused of that idea like I have been at times?
Yeah, immediately, actually. I will tell you, in all the great organizations I've had the opportunity to work in, some of the smartest, most dedicated, incredible people were there in federal government doing every day whatever their mission called them to do, and for the lowest pay I've ever seen as well. So this notion that you hear about, lazy bureaucrats and all that stuff, I think it must exist somewhere, but I didn't see any of it.
Thank you. Brad, we're going to be in lightning round mode now. So you're going to ask a quick question, Tony, quick answer, and Tim also, 2 quickies, and then we're done. Go ahead.
So you mentioned the one OMB rule that you would like to get rid of. In your couple years there, are there any other things that you would want to change that you think would be significant?
One of them is the whole funding process. One of the things I got to do in those evenings when I was walking around OMB is I would see the budget books for every year of the federal budget going back into the 20s. And you think of World War II as a time of heavy expenditures. The budget book for the US was about this thick for the entire federal government in World War II through all those years. Now it's like this. And Congress writes into every rule, every budget appropriation, all kinds of little qualifiers. You can spend money on this only if it's Tuesday and it's raining outside and, the sky is cloudy and, on and on and on and on. And it's ridiculous. And we just don't need that kind of complexity.
Or the New York Times analyst that writes about these things says that we need to second the best minds from all sectors of the economy, have them work for 6 months on a strategic plan. Do we need to do that?
I would agree with that, but it has to be more than 6 months. The rate at which cybersecurity is changing and the challenges, you got to stay on top of it constantly. The things I was fighting at Microsoft are easy peasy today. The challenges just keep getting greater and greater and greater. And you really, I would have formed a cyber force instead of the space force if it was me, because I think we need that kind of focus on that particular issue.
Thank you, Tony, and a contribution will be made on your behalf to City of Hope, and thank you for a fabulous speech.
Okay.
I did have one other thing for Tony while he's in the room. Tony, you can sit down, but there's a certain speaker we've been wanting to get at Rotary for the last 15 or 20 years, a certain Barack Obama, and I know you gave me his cell phone number earlier. I appreciate that, but Rich expects you to help us get him as a speaker, so get to work, would you? A reminder, June is Rotary Fellowship Month, so try to engage yourself in lots of good fellowship. No meeting next week again. Remember that. We have the barbecue. In 2 weeks, our speaker is Bob Rogers, who is a Rotarian speaking on polio plus update and vaccine hesitancy. Should be a really fabulous speech, especially you new Rotarians. Go read up on polio plus and what Rotary has done with the Gates Foundation in the last 30 or 40 years. You'll be very proud to be part of Rotary. Also, every week, would you clear the tables as you walk out, just to save staff having to do that? So if you can pick up your cups and plates and things, I'd appreciate it. And we'll see you next week at the barbecue. Thanks.